Boundaries and vulnerability. I never paid attention to the fact that these two things were so closely related. Okay, another day, another podcast. So today I want to talk about boundaries. This week I did a training inside my mastery coaching program for my clients about boundaries. Boundaries we've all heard of before, right? Whether it's implementing boundaries with your children, also implementing boundaries with other people, but more importantly, realizing that boundaries are essential to a healthy life. And I don't know about you, but if you've ever met somebody who doesn't have good boundaries, whether it's with their time or their energy, and you're like, hey, do you want to go out for coffee, or do you mind doing this for me? And the person is a people pleaser and they say yes, and then they're angry and resentful, and then they're talking about you behind your back, and you're like, hey, if you didn't want to do it, all you had to do was say no. So I didn't really pay attention to the fact that saying no was obviously vulnerable, because then you open yourself up for criticism, for judgment, for letting people down, and really just putting yourself on the stand. And so, a lot of the feedback and questions that I was getting from my clients, and I actually posted this on Instagram as well, and people private messaged me, and I was talking about, what is your difficulty when it comes to implementing boundaries? And they're like, how do I get my child to stick to the boundary? How do I get this person to listen to me? How do I not upset my husband when I whatever? How do I get my boss to yada, yada, yada? And a lot of these questions, were projected onto the other person, but it wasn't actually about the other person. So holding a boundary is about us. It is not about the other person. And so, of course, emotional intelligence is involved in this conversation as well, because you have to have high emotional intelligence to also have good boundaries. So I'm going to give you a quick five-step little formula and maybe some examples of how you can start implementing boundaries in your life today. But here's another thing I want to say. When I didn't have boundaries, and when I say didn't have boundaries, I mean, you always feel guilty for, you're like, oh, I feel guilty for implementing a boundary. I get it. As women, we always just want to save the world and be nice to everybody, but we can't. Or on the opposite end, you feel like a bitch because, you have this strong boundary and other people are like, you're so hard, you're so this, you're so that. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, how do I want to feel? And your boundaries will constantly change and evolve. How do you want to feel in your life? The season that you're in your life right now might be that everything is overwhelming to you. You might be in a season that everything feels great for you, and you can actually I don't want to say relinquish a boundary, but boundaries that I had before were non-negotiable because I felt out of control internally. And then as I started doing the work on myself, as I started filling my own cup, I noticed that some of those boundaries that I used to have, I've been more flexible with. So really, this is your own personal choice. There is no right or wrong here. It's all about what works for you. So maybe what your partner has as a boundary is not going to be what you have as a boundary. And there's, of course, so many additional conversations that we can have around boundaries that are essential to your emotional health. Number one, what I want you to walk away from this conversation is that you matter and boundaries are essential. So it's okay to say no to somebody when you really want to say yes to someone. So here's your 5-part formula for saying no thank you. Number one, start with a compliment if one fits the situation. Number 2, give the answer. Number 3, say thank you. Number 4, encourage the person. And number 5, change the subject or excuse yourself. So let me give you an example. A lot of times I'll get invited to events. Not all events are in alignment with how I want to feel. Some events are, in alignment with my goals, so it's a win-win situation. Some events are not a win-win situation. And so when they're not a win-win situation, I have to ask myself, is this going to get me closer or further away from my big goals? Am I saying yes to this out of obligation? Am I saying yes to this because I want to? I can still attend an event for, let's just say, a friend or someone else because I really want to support that person. But if I'm attending the event and I have any anger or resentment, that means it's out of alignment and I can simply say no thank you. So here's a nice way of saying that. Thanks for thinking of me. This event looks amazing. Let me think about it and I'll get back to you. If you don't hear back from me by X date, please follow up. I love what you're doing. Keep it up. Now, in that example, I wasn't very clear and direct of like, no, thank you. This doesn't work for me at the time. Maybe I was thinking about it. Maybe I was kind of on the fence. So the point here is you're being kind to the other person. You're still respecting them. You're being generous. You're like, oh my God, keep going. I love what you're doing. It's just not in alignment for me right now. I've had many people say no thank you to me. It never hurts my feelings because when they do it from a place of kindness, oh my gosh, I'm like, thank you for responding. Nothing is more annoying than when you're like, hey, do you want to do this? Hey, do you want to do this? And then everybody just avoids the conversation because it's uncomfortable for them. Excuse me. So now I want to give you one for your children. So boundaries show up in every aspect of our lives. Like budgeting, think about it. Budgeting money is actually a boundary, right? So if you have really shitty boundaries in your life, I guarantee you're going to have really shitty money habits. If you can say no thank you with respect and kindness, most likely I don't know. I haven't tested this out. It's not scientifically proven, but I guarantee you probably have a healthier relationship with your money. So this is really just owning who you want to be and how you want to feel. So children are a different subject. I could do a whole podcast on boundaries with children. It's something that I teach inside my mastery program, and it's a magical thing, but this is what I find different. In intimate relationships, it's different to say no thank you to a friend than it is to a partner or a child. So understanding that your children, and my children are walking up, so you might hear them right now. All children are emotional manipulators. So when you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. So what you have to do is be firm with your boundary. You have to have clear expectations, because if you're anything like me and you're raising children, you say no 10 times and they know on the 11th time you're going to give in because you're going to be like, oh my God, just shut up. Okay, fine. You can have candy before bed. So here's the deal with boundaries. It's going to kick up all your shit. It's going to kick up your limiting beliefs that you're not enough. It's going to kick up your belief that you're a bitch. It's going to kick up your belief that you're too rigid or too hard. And you're going to have these crazy stories about, I'm being my mom, or I'm being my father, or I'm being too hard, or I'm being too lax, or, my children are going to hate me. But the point here is, how you want to feel matters. And when you have healthy boundaries, you're setting this expectation for your children. So the number one thing I get with people is like, how do I set healthy boundaries with technology? So think about it this way. How do you want, you are in charge. You most likely paid for that damn technology. You pay for the internet bill. You pay for all of this. So why are you letting your children run the show? I know it's easier to just say, okay, fine, watch TV, play on the iPad, play video games, do whatever. But think about the behavior issues that come up with that. Think about the long-term effects of this. If something is not working for you, you have to implement a boundary. Example, let's take technology. You say, absolutely no technology during the week, during school. Okay. Kids are going to freak out. Of course they are. People don't like change. You're taking away, something that they enjoy. All of a sudden, you have to be the bad guy. That's okay. It's just like telling my kids, no, you can't have crack cocaine. They know, I know it's bad for them, but maybe they want some. The point is, you wouldn't give your kid crack, so why are you going to give them, access to technology that is doing the exact same thing to their brain. Yes, there is science behind that. So my point here is implement the damn boundary and suck up the discomfort that comes along with being an adult. Yes, that was a little kick in the pants for you. So you have the boundary. Hey, honey, new rule. No technology during the school week. No video games, no screen time. We're going to implement playing more, doing more, having more fun, being more creative, reading, writing, whatever. I don't want to. I know this sucks. It's so uncomfortable. I'm the worst mom ever. But trust me, you're going to love it in the end. We're going to have the best summer together ever. No, Mom, no. Take the technology away. Obviously, you're going to give them, you're not just going to rip it out of their hands. You're going to give them like, hey, starting Monday, this is what we're implementing. And then you put it away. You got to sit through the discomfort. You could be like, I know, it sucks. I got it. Literally, I used to put our technology in a safe on the weekends. And the safe was locked so that, if I put it in a drawer or something, the kids couldn't steal it and take it away. And honestly, sometimes I've had to do this with my own technology. The point is, boundaries are healthy. Let your children be uncomfortable. Let their brain have a detox. But listen, we need boundaries. You're not going to get this right. You're not going to get this wrong. There is no such thing as perfection here. There is a thing about you getting a good night's sleep and feeling like you are good enough as a parent. What works for me and my children will not work for you and your children. So your challenge today, and just for today while you're listening to this podcast or the next 24 hours, is you don't need to start implementing boundaries everywhere. But what I want you to do is think of one little micro action step that you can take, one little micro area of your life where you're like, we need a boundary there. Declare it. Write it out. Have the uncomfortable conversation and watch the magic unfold in your life. But you have to follow through. If you don't follow through or if you're not consistent, nothing will change. Okay, ladies, I hope you found this to be of service to you. And if you did, let me know. Head on over to Instagram at Mom is in Control. Send me a private message. Let me know. Also, if you have more questions for me, go to momisincontrol.com/QA. You can now leave me an audio recording of your question, and I will be using them in future podcasts. All right, ladies, talk soon.
So before I started with MIIC, I was feeling stuck in my life. Like on the outside, things were good. I had my job, married, had kids, kind of check, did all the things that you're supposed to in life, right? But I was feeling kind of stuck and trapped in where I was and feeling like I was spinning my wheels a bit and just not really moving forward with the goals and dreams that I wanted to accomplish. So I would say, too, that my confidence in myself was just kind of at an all-time low point. Where I am now compared to when I started or before I started with Heather is just so completely different. Like, I feel like I found my spark in life again. And it's kind of magical, right? And so now I feel like I have the tools and I'm just more connected with myself again and able to feel what I want in life and the dreams that I have, and to be able to chase after those in a really sustainable way that's manageable and that brings me joy. It's not like anything huge has changed in my life in terms of progress, and it's just up here. Up here feels different, and that has made all the difference. What drew me to Heather, listening to her podcasts, it just pulled me in. The more I listened, the more I was I just appreciated Heather's honesty and how she said everything. And the message that she was sharing really just resonated with how I was feeling. It was like she was in my life, in my head, and just totally understood what I was going through. And she had like a way of helping pull me through to the other side, which is why I was gravitated towards her. And I felt like she would kindly point me in that direction, but also kick me in the butt if I needed it. And so I jumped in. So if you're feeling terrified about jumping into this with Heather, I can tell you I did too. Like, I totally hesitated because I was scared of what might happen, like how I would change or what she might push me to do, and like feeling uncomfortable. And honestly, after like just the first conversation with Heather, I knew it was going to be okay. Like, this woman was going to be there holding my hand and just showing me the way and just kind of right alongside me. That's what I felt like. And through this whole program that I've been with her, that's how it's been. It's never been her pushing me. It was more her showing me what was really inside and what I wanted and needed, and like kind of being the window to opening that up to me. If you're remotely thinking about this, or you've been following Heather along, and you feel in your gut that this there's a connection there, and that you feel like this is the right direction to take, just take the first step. Take a deep breath and just take that step, because it'll just lead you to the next steps that you need, and it will feel amazing. You will come out of this on the other side just with so much more clarity.